So hopefully you can see us. This is a little bit the other way around now. Normally I'm the one doing the interviewing, but Mark Lancaster very kindly said that I should be interviewed because I hadn't been interviewed for the Coffee and Donuts. We'd interviewed Marky and Rob, and obviously Mark and Double P, and we had
Funky
Funky
Flavors.
Flavors and Dave
Stephen
Cowan.
Cowan.
Yeah. I think that's everyone. So anyway, so I'm going to hand it over to Mark. I'm
Yeah.
a bit nervous, which is a bit weird, but yeah, let's see what Mark's got in line for me.
Okay. Yeah, well, I wanted, that's my point, that if it wasn't really for Criztoz, a lot of this Coffee and Donuts thing wouldn't really happen because he organises it all. He organises the streams, he gets the guests together, he puts all the programming together, amongst other things as well, which we'll talk about later on. So, he's interviewed all of us, and I just thought it'd be nice to find out a little bit about the mystery man who lives in a mystery place on the Sunshine Coast in south of England. Who's got many different monikers, as well. As I want to ask him a bit about that. I think that's
Okay.
going to be my first question. It's 25th C and not 25 THC.
That's right. Yeah.
Where does that come from?
It's a bit of a long history. So when I first started DJing, one of my favorite books, I don't read a huge amount of books, but one of my favorite books was The Count of Monte Cristo. So my initial DJ name was The Count of Monte Cristo.
Okay.
And then I looked it up, and there was, I think, some French band with that name.
Yeah.
And so then it became just Monte Cristo, I think. No, then it became The Count. And then it became 25th Count. And then I just cut it down to 25th C, which is 25th Count, but also 25th. I was born on Christmas Day, so that's 25th.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And C is obviously my initial, so it's sort of a couple of things sort of melded together. But yeah, so that's one of my DJ.
One of your many monikers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so it's always because I know lots of people say THC, and I know it's like Mr. Pate mix. People say Mr. Pate mix, it's Mr. Pate mix, and lots of people read it, and that's you read it and you don't know without actually hearing it. But
exactly,
the first thing I wanted to ask you, obviously a massive music fan. So was there a lot of music about when you were a kid at home with your mum and dad and stuff?
There was. If you've seen any of my shows, you've probably heard me talk about. So this room that I'm in at the moment, and the house I live in,
home, isn't it?
It's where it used to be my home. So basically, my parents lived here when I was 5 till 11, and then they rented it out, and then we bought it back just before we had Zia. So this room that I'm in used to be the sort of games room, music room, and I've got a very vivid memory of sitting down on the floor just down there with one of those blue record players that sort of big that open the top and playing the Grease soundtrack, of all things. And so we obviously had some records, but that's about the only one I can sort of remember back then, because my parents are from Cyprus, so they had some obviously Greek music, but none of that sort of has sunk in or sort of been something I've really gone to. But that's a very vivid memory of that. And then so that was from a childhood, and then obviously just music at school and listening to the radio and stuff is where sort of my sort of hip hop and dance music sort of love sort of came a bit later.
Yeah. And what kind of age were you when you started buying stuff?
I think
starting point,
I would say, I'm trying to think, it's probably maybe my 11th or 12th birthday. I got one of those hi-fi systems, like a Sony hi-fi system, which had a record deck on the top, 2 cassette players, radio, and then it had like double cassette, and then it had a 5-disc CD player on the bottom. So I remember getting that maybe 13th, 12th, 13th birthday. And don't forget, because I'm born on Christmas Day, Christmas and birthday rolls into one. So I always get a big present, but only once a year. So that's why I got that. And I think I remember going to Tesco, I think, in a little village just outside here, and buying things like, back then, 5 Star, Madonna, the Madonna Immaculate Collection and stuff like that on CD, just so I had some CDs. And then obviously from then it just obviously grew from there. And then when I was at school, every Monday on the release day, I'd go down to the record shop and buy whatever CD or record had come out for that week. Because
when did vinyl start for you then?
I was buying vinyl at that time as well, but not to the extent. I'd buy a few things on vinyl, but they sort of sat there, and then I'd get stuff because I had the record deck on the top, so I would have that. But then, like most people, I went through then a phase where I stopped buying vinyl and I was buying CDs, CD singles,
Well,
and
vinyl
then
was
it came back.
falling out of fashion, wasn't it? Around about
Yeah,
that time you were saying, when you
yeah,
were,
yeah.
you know, that kind of age, that was when vinyl started dropping off. And I bought my first CD in 1991, and I stopped buying vinyl around about 92, 93, maybe even, you know, before that, and just exclusive, because it just disappeared almost overnight. And it was very difficult, well, unless you're a specialist, obviously, and you're into dance. So I just wondered if you were at the wrong time for vinyl in some respects.
Well, yeah, and I think although I was buying a lot of stuff on CDs, I was buying some dance music on 12s. So we still had at that time a couple of record shops, Marlin Music and some other record shops that I would go in and I'd buy like a dance 12 or a couple of dance 12 or whatever, you know. And I've still got some of those, like stuff like Spiral Tribe, which was around at sort of that sort of time. So over there, I've got my sort of much smaller 12s collection compared to my 7s. But yeah, so I was still buying a bit, but just not as huge as amount as before.
So when did the whole sevens thing kick in then? Because I think you said something about a mate. You've mentioned before a mate was going to do
Yeah,
some kind of
so
thing, and you were doing digital stuff at the time.
yeah, we were doing sort of Jelly Funk All Stars is a crew that I DJed with, a guy called Toby who came up with Jelly Funk locally, and a guy called Adrian, Big 404. So Toby's been putting on parties for ages locally. I linked up with him, and then we linked up with Adrian. We formed the Jelly Funk All Stars, and we're playing Tractor digital DVS. Yeah. Adrian then had a party booked over in Hastings, I think it was, which he just took a load of sevens along. He just fancied taking it. He was playing on his own. And then he came back and said, "Oh, I had a really good time. Why don't we do a sevens night over here?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've still got, you know, basically what was under here, like a sort of big box of sevens." And I was like, "Yeah, we can do that. That sounds like fun." And we did it. And we just had such a great time playing sevens because it was so different to looking at your laptop, scrolling through, playing the same music you might have played the week before or whatever, and sort of digital DJing. And then we decided to do it regularly. And we formed the original 45ers. So me and him DJ'd quite regularly, pretty much, you know, every weekend locally and at festivals and art galleries and cafes and restaurants and all sorts of stuff, up until the pandemic. And then obviously it all sort of stopped. But yeah, so, you know, big thanks to Adrian for getting me into the
So
sevens.
what year would that be when you first started doing the sevens?
I would say, so if we go 2020 to pandemic, that was probably around 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
So probably, yeah. So it's probably a good. We were doing the original 45ers, and we still do it every now and again. Probably a good 3 years or so before the pandemic sort of hit.
So there wasn't I'd imagine back then, but there wasn't a great deal of 45s coming out at that time. Not like now. It seems to have increased quite a lot in the last few years.
I think there's definitely a lot more now. You know, he wasn't buying quite so many. He was going to, like, we've got a record shop that sells cheapies, and he was buying loads, and he had some from his dad's collection because his dad used to DJ as well. Rest in peace, Graham. But I was buying them. There was stuff coming out, but it's difficult to know if it was just I just wasn't aware of so much coming out, or whether it just wasn't there. But I was certainly buying stuff. But I was talking to someone about this the other day. Back then, sevens were about £5 or £6, so you could afford to buy doubles for 12 quid. I'll buy doubles, keep one to one side, and then obviously, you know, I've got a spare if I need it, or, you know, sell it on or pass it on to someone or whatever. And whereas now there's no way you can do that because the sevens now are like 14, 12, 13, 14, 15 quid. You know, it's amazing the price difference in just a few years.
I bought the new Nautilus. I know it comes from Japan, but that's like 19 quid before you even get postage. So it's over 20 quid just for one single, you know, and it's so expensive. But
and the weird thing is these are sort of new records that we're buying at that sort of price. And yet there's other collectors that we know who've been on shows like, you know, Jowo Jones and that, who are paying hundreds of pounds for like a second-hand record. So it's crazy that even new records are going for 20, 30 quid already, before they're even then potentially flipped further down the line, you know.
Yeah, I mean, say it is. some of the, I mean, so I'm a bit like Benny Goggs, you know, I'm a 50p banger boy, you know, I love
Yeah.
finding all the, you know, the pound or £2 things. Talking to Mark Funk on the show, he came on whenever it was, Tuesday, and saying the same, you know, we just like going out and finding those £2, £3, £4 records that are still great, but you know, you're not paying your 40, 50 quid for a single because it's just ridiculous.
I know.
Some of the
I mean,
prices.
it's quite nice in a way that, well, being 45s collectors or record collectors, obviously we have to buy our music, and I know digital DJs buy a lot of their stuff as well. But we have got the beauty of, obviously you can buy the brand new stuff, or you go to a record shop,
Yeah,
and that's what I've enjoyed, especially since the pandemic has sort of opened up and we've been able to go back into record shops. I really enjoy, when I've been around the country or wherever,
oh yeah,
popping into a record shop, like for example up in
yeah, the
Stirling,
selling one, yeah,
which Ouija had told me about. And I just went in there and I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll find some stuff, maybe I won't, you know, lots of 70s and 80s stuff. And I'm going through and I'm like, wow, yeah, yeah. And then, you know, you come up with a massive stack
mm,
for 40, 50 quid because they're all 2 quid each or 3 quid or 1 quid or
that's right.
whatever. And you're like, okay, that's a decent chunk. You can't see it, but down here I've just got bags and bags of records that I
Yeah,
need to go through at some stage in the next sort of couple of months.
to find out
And
what you
sort of,
actually bought.
well,
Yeah,
exactly. And the thing is, it's like you see something, you're like, okay, I think that's what it is. You grab it, and it might not be quite what you think,
mm.
or you know, when you listen back to it, it might not be what you want or something. So, but then you
Yeah,
can pass it on to someone else, sell it to someone
do you
else,
do
or
what I do though? Do you buy stuff and then you think you've already got it when you get home, or are you better than that? 'Cause I'm
occasionally
terrible.
I will. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think in my brain I know almost everything I've got, but I don't, or clearly, because I've
Mm,
got so many records. But it is a bit annoying if you buy something, then you turn up home and you find it again. But then you got a double, you know.
yeah,
So
that's right. I mean, I say if it's only £1, then I don't mind. It's you
it
know
doesn't matter.
when you're spending a lot of money, you don't want
Yeah,
to do that. But yeah, I mean, I did that the other day. I did a similar to you. I was down in Cornwall, went in a record shop in Truro. Because I've been in before, and they've moved shop, and it's much better now.
yeah,
And I know I was in there an hour and a half, picked up like 30 odd sevens. It was
yeah, yeah,
37 quid, you know, like, and there
yeah.
was, I think, two I already had. So that's not a bad hit for me, to be honest, because it's usually much worse than that.
That's
You
not.
know, most of it was,
I think what I found the other week was Juno have started doing the pre-order
mm,
stuff. So the annoying thing is you pre-order it, and then I forgot that I'd pre-ordered the not that it's a problem because I love both of them, the DJ Bacon and the Jim Sharp that I played this morning.
oh yeah, yeah.
I'd pre-ordered those, forgot that I'd pre-ordered them, and then when they came out, you get
You
the
bought,
email to those release. So I bought them again, and then I got 2 packets through, and I was like, well, hold on, why have I? And I was like, oh god, I bloody pre-ordered it. So I think I need to start writing down if I'm
yeah,
pre-ordering to stop
yeah.
me buying them twice. But those are good records, and you
That's
know
right. It's not so
they're
bad.
worth
It's
it,
not as
and
bad, is it? No, it's not
you know
bad. It's
there's no loss there, you know, really.
no, no. That's good
Um,
stuff. So when did you?
Galen Hardy, sorry to interrupt. Galen Hardy's suggesting that Primark need to start a
Yeah,
record shop or a record
that'd be
label.
good. Yeah, a Primark, yeah, a budget. It'd be like the old K-Tel or was it Ronco and stuff used to do those budget MFP. Was it MPF? Music for and MFP, Music for Pleasure. Yeah,
Yeah,
Primark
yeah.
record label with funky bangers for 50p. That'd be great. It's a good idea. Gal, get it sorted
Uh,
out, mate. Yeah.
Exactly. And Fat Wax is saying he's happy to know it's not just him. I'm assuming he's talking about the pre-orders.
Yeah. Well, so I'm saying there's obviously it's a running joke, isn't there? In a lot of the chat, was something like Butchie is the same as
Yeah.
me, that I think, oh, that's a great record. I'll check that out. And I think, oh, yeah, I've already got that. Okay. But
That's a good thing
that's good
though.
because it saves you money because you don't actually have to
Yeah.
go and buy it because you've already got it.
Exactly. I think when we first started, I know we haven't quite got there, but when we first started on Twitch, there'd be stuff you'd hear and then you'd buy it. But now it's likely you've got some of it already. So it is, like you say, it's always a relief when you're like,
Mm,
oh, brilliant, I've got it already. I don't need to buy it, you know. Or you haven't listened to the B-side or something. You're like, oh, this is the B-side to that record that I have
that's
got.
right.
I've
It's
just
hidden
I've
away on the
never
B
flipped
side,
over.
particularly some of the booties that come out.
Yeah,
They've
yeah.
often got a completely different. I mean, there's what is it? Black Sheep by
Yeah.
yeah, the B side of that is a fantastic soul thing, which I can't remember the name of it yet. But Ouija played the other day, so it's great. And I have to
Yeah.
check that. Oh yeah, I've got that. And you look
Uh,
up, the original on Discogs is going for about 200 quid, and you think, oh, I've already got it. That's all right. It's yeah,
exactly.
it's,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So so you said when did you first start actually DJing out? I mean, both digitally or you've already mentioned about the studio.
Okay, so that would have been probably around 2005, I think.
And how did that
So
start?
I had a big
Was it a
old
mate?
collection,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to think if that would have, yeah, that probably it's probably around then because it's probably around my 30th birthday.
Mm,
And I decided, right, I'm gonna start DJing.
mm,
I've got plenty of records. I love DJs. I'm gonna give it a go. So I ended up buying two Technics Mark 5, I think they were at the time, a mixer, and then two CDJ 800s. I was like, right, I've got CDs,
mm,
vinyl, I can just do the lot and see what
yeah.
happens. And so that was about that. And then I think the first thing was there was some local DJ competition or something going on
Mm,
here, and I sort of entered that after 6 months. Not that I was going to win it or do anything, but it was just a bit of experience. And then obviously I met a few people, and then I started running my own nights. I found
okay.
there's a place called Bar Blue in town, which is still there, and they still have nights and stuff. And basically, yeah, I just messaged to other people who weren't DJs necessarily, just people I knew who had record collections. For example, one of my friends who I was out with last night, Phil, he doesn't DJ, but he's got a lot of funk music on
Mm,
CDs. I said, right, come down and just
mm,
play from your box.
mm,
And so he put on a couple of nights. One was called Funky Junk, and the other one was called Barry Alexa. Funky Junk was like funk and hip hop and stuff like that. And then Barry Leg was more electronic music. So we sort of did those sort of fortnightly. Did that for a few years, and then sort of carried on really
mm.
to other venues and other events and other things.
That's good. So, obviously, this all comes up. Obviously, when the pandemic hit, everything
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of ground to a halt. So, when was your first sort of foray into sort of the streaming? Not so doing it, but actually seeing. Did you see anyone in particular you thought, oh, we could do that, or was it automatically straight away? I can stream.
That's a good point. I'm trying to think exactly how it started because I did some stuff on Facebook, like most people.
Yeah,
We've all pretty much gone onto Facebook. There was a group called Through Music We Live On, which is a Facebook group,
yeah,
and they had like pretty much once the pandemic hit, it was like pretty much every day they had stuff, and I sort of got involved with them, watching a little bit of that. And this was before Twitch. I wasn't really aware of Twitch at this
yeah.
stage. And then I was just doing some streaming with them, and I was doing Sunday, like a Sunday lunchtime, and then a Sunday afternoon for an hour, playing just 45s. And I think there was a couple of other vinyl DJs, but no one else doing 45s. Everyone else was pretty much digital. But that was probably the first time I saw what could happen with Facebook. And then one of the local nightclubs put on a charity event, and they were using Twitch,
Okay.
and I set up Twitch, and then they used the stream key, and so that was the first time I'd had. So we had a set, or I had a set in the evening,
Mm,
and that was my first sort of awareness of Twitch and how it could be used to sort of have DJs sort
yeah.
of coming along in a line, a bit like what we do now on Coffee and
Mm,
Donuts, all on the same channel, but obviously that and the stream key. And I think it's at that point I was like, okay, this is interesting. We might be able to do something. Um, and it was probably shortly after that I spoke to Rob and said, why don't we do some streaming on the 45 Kings?
yeah,
Go and
yeah.
set up a Twitch channel and do that and all the rest of it. But yeah, and it wasn't really, so really the DJs that we're sort of friendly with now or see now, I didn't really become aware of a lot of them until we actually did that first 24-hour
Okay.
session.
Yeah.
Because I sort of heard of a few of them through the group. But it wasn't until we did that suddenly it was like, okay, there is all these amazing DJs. We can do something really interesting here because they're all from around the world. Yeah, me and Rob didn't know if it was going to work because we hadn't done it
Mm,
before. We hadn't seen it before. Obviously, other than that little experience I'd had where it sort of worked for a few hours,
mm.
I didn't know if it was going to work. But yeah, so it's a strange one.
It's
But
quite a big chance to take in some respects, isn't it? Because, but it's not,
yeah,
you didn't know. Now it okay. I mean, you organise it all the time, but I mean, I've organised a few
yeah, yeah.
bits and pieces, and it's hard because people aren't always available, and you approach a few people, and maybe it's just me, maybe they don't want to DJ for me, but can you do that? Oh no, I can't do that. I'm doing this, or I'm working, or whatever. But then,
It was.
but we
I
know
mean,
this, but we know these people. You're not going in cold, but you at that stage
it was
didn't
it
know any
was
of these people at
so
all. You know,
yeah, I mean, look,
how do you even begin to start that?
well, I mean, it's. I think one of the points we had was it was obviously pandemic. Everyone was in lockdown,
Mm,
so obviously no one was really going anywhere, and that was pretty much across the world. So that was one thing we had in our favour. Um, but I think we just put out me and Rob from memory again. You know, it's a couple of years ago now, but I think from memory we just put out who'd be interested in streaming, and then we got a whole list of people, and then before we knew it, we had 24 hours, which was
yeah,
ridiculous.
no, amazing.
And we didn't know what we were doing. No one had streamed on our channel before, other than we'd done a little test. Um, and somehow,
It
somehow it
works.
worked.
Yeah.
You know, other than I think a little technical issue where Mark Hype couldn't get on,
Mm,
and so we ended up having Sam. But this is what's bizarre now, because Sam Tweaks was our substitute,
okay.
effectively,
Yeah,
considering where
yeah,
he's got to and how big he is and how
absolutely
amazing,
massive.
his
Yeah.
DJ. He was effectively our substitute because he was still, I think, wax nerds and all the rest
Mm,
of it. And they'd been doing a little bit. And I think he'd just started on Twitch, so he knew what was going on. He was all set up, ready, so he could just jump in. Um, but yeah, I mean, we just said to people, right, these are your slot times. It was an absolute nightmare working out the time zones back
mm,
then. Obviously, I know what, if you say to me what's Eastern, what's Pacific
mm,
now, I can say, right, that's 5 hours, that's 8 hours or whatever. I
mm,
can, I know it all. But then,
mm,
spreadsheets and trying to work out time zones and trying to make sure it all worked and people
yeah.
were available and blah blah. It's a nightmare. But yeah, somehow we pulled it off. you know,
And
um,
who around at that time is still, because I didn't see that 24-hour, just a little bit before
we
me.
had. I'm going to forget a load of people. Funky Chef was definitely on it. Funky Chef
Okay.
played a brilliant set. And I think again he had a party at his house, a bit like he did the Coffee and
Yeah,
Donuts
yeah.
second birthday last week. Funky Chef was there. Chrome. Sam obviously stepped in. There's me. There was Rob. We had Island Vibes. I think we had Coyote. Coyote couldn't get on actually. DJ Coyote couldn't go on. We had Sticky Doja. We had I'm forgetting who else we had. We had Enzo and Vito. And Vito
Okay.
in
Yeah.
Italy. But yeah, we had tons. It was one. I think Luke dropped Kid as well, probably in
Mm,
Mexico. I'll have to go back and look at the list. But yeah, I think it was 25 DJs because Enzo and Vito played a joint
yeah,
set
yeah, yeah.
from their balcony as the sun went down.
Mm. Oh,
It
brilliant.
was amazing. It was. But yeah, we somehow pulled it off. And I'm just looking at what Fatwax is saying. At that point, Sam, Bounce, Tommy, and myself were playing weekly for that crew we don't mention. Okay, fair enough.
Okay. Yeah. I've never heard of them.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know who they are. But yeah, so it was a. I suppose it was a risk, but then
Mm,
we didn't really have anything to lose. We had a small channel. We had
yeah.
no one there. I mean, it was amazing seeing the follows as it come in. Because we went from practically nothing to however many follows we had, and I think we pretty much made affiliate somehow during that 24 hours. I don't know if the
Mm,
rules were slightly different then to now, because obviously now you've got to do across 8 days. But I think we
yeah.
made affiliate by the end of the middle of the show or something, but we didn't know what it was. There's some guy coming
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, why haven't you got subs and bits and stuff set up?" And we were like,
What's
well, "I
all
don't know
that?
what you're talking about. What
Yeah.
are you talking about?" And
Yeah.
obviously now we know what all that is about. So yeah, it was a risk, but it's
But yeah,
yeah,
at the end of the day, it was a bit of
it
it
it,
was, it
it,
was a
it
bit of
paid
fun
off. It was
anyway.
fun. People
Mm.
wanted to get involved. People liked it. It was amazing, really.
And I think that's what the amazing thing. I mean, even I've seen over the couple of years I've been watching how it's grown since then. Has been amazing. I mean, you must be so proud of what you've achieved with how
It's
it's grown and the. I mean, the one thing that stands out for me out of all of it, and not because of the music particularly or the DJs, but the fact that you had a 6-hour live stream from Panama. For God's sake, it's just
um,
madness. Yeah.
we might be having another one as well.
Oh, excellent! I've looked for
Yeah,
asthmatics. Are there asymmetrics? Is it?
yeah, it's asymmetrics. Yeah, we've been exchanging a few messages. I think there's some sort of national holiday on the 3rd or 4th of November,
Okay.
so he was going to check with the guys. So we might be doing another one.
I'll be,
But
yeah.
yeah, I mean that. I think all of those country streams were great, and they've all got
The
little
Romanian
bits.
one stands out as well
The
because
Romanian one
some
was
of the
really good. I mean, they
bonkers
had
music they were
like
playing. It's amazing.
yeah, they had like a camera crew and they had
Yeah,
different angles and
that's
they was
right.
pointing
Yeah.
out, we need to get those guys back on as well. And then we had one of the first ones was the Germany one
Yeah.
where we had I think one of the moments that most people remember is Robert Smith was DJing, and something happened with this deck, and I think I was on the phone on Messenger speaking to Major Triple, trying to explain you've got no left channel on this one, and then I was chatting to Mark. They're having a bit of a party there, and then they did sort of this pit stop where they took the deck apart, brought in one of Mark's sort of gold Technics championship winning decks or something, and put it in, and they managed to get it going before this record finished. So there was like a seamless pit stop from the Germans, and you can see Rick going, yeah.
I remember it's slightly off subject, but I remember seeing the Get Up, and Mark Ashfield, who's a Hammond player, and his Leslie speaker stopped spinning halfway through a song, and
Right.
he actually mends, and that's what he does. He owns a studio, but he repairs and rebuilds Hammonds for a living.
Right.
And
Okay.
so
Cool.
during a trombone solo, Mark fixed his Leslie during the song. It's like he's down on his hands and he's sort of thing like that, and then he's like, "I've done it." Like, then he started playing. It's like, that's quite impressive, really.
It is. And then I spoke to Fat Wax on this sort of host show, and he was playing on 45 Funksters, and I sort of looked away, and then his screen had the flyer or whatever, and he explained that basically his Vestax had like just something had happened and it sort of exploded mid-set, and he had to go all the way up to the attic to collect his deck from up there and bring it down, reset it up again, all the time of a 3-minute record over here, which
No,
is, I mean, that's that's a problem for DJs, vinyl DJs, that wouldn't be a problem necessarily for digital DJs, because they'd just be like, okay, we'll just put a 8-minute, 10-minute track or whatever over here while I sort out. But it wouldn't happen in the same way. But
I mean, we've all done it as DJing out, where we always have a long track so we can go to the loo. But it's a bit different when it's 45s, because you don't have that. I've got a few 45s that are 6 minutes long, but not many.
Well, they're going to be played at 33, haven't they? Some of the compactos that are played at 33 are, and they do sometimes squeeze about 6
some
minutes.
Of those, oh God, what's the great label that Malachi Trout puts out?
Dynamite Cuts.
Dynamite Cuts. Sorry, some of those are quite long. 5 or 6, 7 minutes, or 6 minutes long.
As Double P's saying, put a 12-inch record on, or one of the CDs that he's accidentally bought recently.
When he's good at accidentally buying CDs. So it's one thing I've actually never seen on Twitch, because I watch other streams and people do digital stuff all the time. I've never seen anyone use CDJs yet. I mean, I've got some. I haven't used them for about 5, 6 years, but I've never. I don't. But I've never seen.
I think people tend to use controllers rather than sort of separate CDJs. I think I have seen some people use controllers, but I think a lot of the DJs that we follow who play digital are doing Serato DVS, aren't they? So that's that. But I'm
actually using.
You see it a lot.
It'd be quite interesting to watch.
Yeah, it's interesting when you see sometimes I watch on Facebook or something like Tomorrowland, that crazy festival in Belgium comes out that goes on for 2 weeks, and it's just like a massive electronic festival. But they've always seemed to have like double setups, but it's almost like 4 CDJs. And then one of those big, massive, what they call the V6 or the V10 Pioneer mixer in the middle, which has got like billions. And then they've got like another setup over there. So it's just, it's like, imagine trying to play 4 records or 4 tracks at the same time, and it's just a different thing.
Well, my setup, I used to have the CDJs and the decks and the mixer on, and it's like it's too far apart. And I just, when was the last time I used my CDJs? Oh, about 3 years ago. I think I'm going to take them down. It's not work.
You find that sometimes if you go and DJ somewhere, then obviously the CDJs are always here, and then the decks are there, so you're always having to sort of stretch around. But
I did use it at a wedding. I did a wedding about 5 years ago for my mate, and a couple of the tracks that they wanted were digital, so I had to download them, burn them onto a CD, and then play them from that, because there's no way that some of their requests were not available on vinyl. So
exactly.
I had to use. But that was I was under complete duress because I didn't want to do it. But when it's my mate's wedding, you have to bend slightly, don't you? But
I try not to do weddings these days.
Yes.
I've done the odd friends one, and that last one was he just wanted a playlist. I was like, I took my 2 little CDJs and mixed it. It was much easier. But yeah.
So I've got one coming up next year sometime, next August, and they want me. An old friend wants me to do it, but she knows the score, so I say, you do know I only play vinyl, and she goes, yeah. Okay. And she likes all that 80s electronica stuff anyway, so I've got enough of that to
You got
last
enough
a
of that to give up.
Yeah. So with the 45 Kings, you and Rob and Fatback just set this up, and you started Coffee and Donuts. So that was around about, well, obviously 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was September 2020. So yeah, it was almost to the day. I'm just going to pause for a second because Fatwax has sent through the flyer from the 45 Kings 24-hour one. So let's just go through that. So DJ Mr. Lob, then we had J Breaks Nonstop, DJ Mathematics, Decal, Hoo Ha, Fatwax, myself, Chrome, Soul 45, Funky Chef, Atom Funk and Soul, which is T2 Funk now. Franklin Spinwell, Ouija, Enzo Pietanza, Vito Keeneman, Father Ramsey, Mark Hype, who obviously couldn't play, and Sam Tweaks to place, Funky Fish, Chris Pop, DJ Shavare, Naughty NMX, Wes Pickle, Sticky Doja, DJ Coyote, and Loop Drop Kid. So that was Australia, UK, Spain, USA, Italy, Germany, North Macedonia, and Mexico.
Wow.
So yeah, God, that's crazy.
It's not bad for a first ever attempt at a stream.
No, not bad.
That's a bit like the one that Pete Brady did, and there was people from I think there was a couple of Americans, but mostly UK. There was someone in Germany, I think, and there was a few in Oz. I think Martin Vlart did that. His was amazing. He did it in the middle of it, almost like it was outside,
right,
by the river in Canberra, and it's like, how the hell did he manage to do that? It's like, it's absolutely, and he had a roving camera spinning, someone walking around with a camera, spinning around his decks as he's playing this in the middle of nowhere. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know how he did it.
We've gone a little bit off topic, but what they called the Funk in English.
Yeah,
I've done we've had them on once. One of them, I think it was Sai, came on and did a set. But they've got a like a big sort of power generator thing that they use a solar panel. I think it's called Jackery. And basically they take this solar panel up to the Alps because they work and ski up there, and they did their set from almost like the top of a mountain, but they had enough power from this little generator and this solar panel to power decks. It was like a controller, I think, and a laptop, and somehow they got Wi-Fi. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing what potentially could be done.
Well, yeah, you could do it. Yeah, it is. I mean, so some of the favourite sets I've ever seen are the ones you do from some record shops and stuff. The German women that do it. That's always fantastic to watch them doing in their record shop, and just it's great seeing everyone in their house, but going outside and the cafes. I know it's harder to do, and you do rely on their Wi-Fi. I mean, that one in Glasgow was a bit shonky a couple of times, but
yeah, I think what it is that Twitch is quite a interactive platform, and I think it's difficult if you're running. So, for example, we've done like the streams from the record shop up in Glasgow, and it's difficult to interact whilst you're in a record shop. And I think what Soul Trading did a live thing, and the way they did it is effectively they've got one mic for Twitch, so they can talk to the Twitch followers, and then they've got another mic for Twitch and everyone who's in the venue. Because otherwise you have to sort of switch off the mic. You're like, oh, hey, Mark Lancaster, or hey, Ouija, or whatever. It doesn't make any sense to anyone who's actually physically in the real life venue. Whereas if you've got that separate mic, okay, it looks a bit weird to them because it looks like you're talking and they can't hear you. But I think that's the way to do it. But it still means someone's having to check the chat and all the rest of it. Whereas most of the things we've done, for example, up in Edinburgh and stuff, has been like social gatherings, and it's like, right, it's great to hang out and play some music. So we haven't necessarily streamed it because that's just then something else sort of have to deal with. But that'll come, I think, at some point as we grow.
There's something, I mean, I've thought about, and I've actually spoken to the guy who runs Ship Full of Bombs about this. He's always really busy, and he never really comes around to anything. But I will go back to him again about doing something via Twitch and broadcast over the radio at the same time.
I think
that's an interesting concept to try it out and see if it works.
I think that should be.
When I do my shows on once a month, and most of the time I do it from home. There's no reason really why I shouldn't stick it up on my channel.
Stream it at the same time. Yeah, yeah,
At the same time.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
at least you're getting some listeners, which is something we don't always get. But
yeah. I mean, I know. We will get back to coffee and donuts. We've sort of branched off a little bit. But I was chatting to last weekend. DJ Fade put me in touch with this group in Brighton that put on an open decks thing, and I sort of went along and hung out and played some 45s. Most of them were digital, most of them were sort of dance stuff. But I was chatting to someone who was saying that he does a radio show on, I think, I can't remember which radio show, one Brighton maybe, or one of the other ones. And I was like, well, what's it like? How do you get any feedback? He's like, well, I don't know. I've got no idea how many people are listening.
No, you
There's
don't
no there's no sort of feedback, so I don't know if people are listening. It's very different because you're just talking effectively to yourself, or you're talking to a wall because there's no reaction. So obviously Twitch has become, in a way, the new radio, and I know Fat Wax sort of has it on.
Adrian does. He said he puts it on in work, and he's wondering when it's just on in the background as a radio station, and that's what he does. And he starts with coffee and donuts and lots of the different streams. I think coffee and donuts, in a lot of ways, for me on the Saturday, it is like the radio because it's on. Like this morning, I took the laptop into the kitchen. I was doing some washing up and all that kind of stuff, but it's there in the background, and it's part of. And
I think it's, and we were talking about a little bit about this before we started, weren't we? I think the beauty of, well, let's go through how it started. I think we started on that scope. I think me and Rob just wanted to DJ on a Saturday morning straight after the 24-hour stream. We were both like buzzing, and I was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything Saturday. I'm going to stream. Do you want to do a stream? And then we just did like an hour each, and then we sort of extended it. Did that a couple of weeks, I think, and then we got a guest, and then we got other people in, and then eventually got Marky on board. And as we said on the show that I did with him, he never left. He sort of stayed ever since as a co-host. So that was how he started. But I think the beauty of it, and one of the things that has worked quite well, is the variety of everything. So, for example, even just today, you had my set, and I normally do a bit of talking and obviously play new records and old records and whatever's come in, and say, okay, go and buy this one. This has just come out, or whatever. And then we normally have Fat Wax, but obviously we had Svalansky today, who played some amazing, really nicely blended records. And then we had like a sort of turntablist champion in Paul Sitter after that, and that's just one show, know. And so it's a bit like even and I think the other thing about 45s is that if you don't particularly like that record I'm playing, you might like the next one.
It's not on for very long.
You might like the other one. I think with, again, no disrespect to digital DJs or genre specific DJs, but obviously people who play just house music or people who play just drum and bass or whatever, if you're not feeling it, or you're not in the right vibe, or it's not the right environment, or you're not in a club, or you're not in a pub or whatever, it can get a bit boring quite quickly. And it's not really going to do anything else. Whereas with 45, you just don't know what's going to come next.
Well, I think I found that that's my favorite thing about coffee and donuts is the variety that you'll get. People playing hip hop all the way through, and then they go. I mean, reggae's not my thing. I've mentioned this many times before, but you get people who play lots of reggae, and it's great because they're playing that kind of thing. And then you get the soul DJs and the pop DJs. There's a few of us now starting to play some pop. I mean, I remember when I first ever did a pop set off, I was really quite worried because I thought everyone's playing all these trendy edits and great beats and stuff. I'm going to play all this 70s stuff, and the people are going to go, "What the hell was this?" And to my surprise, everyone goes, "Oh, I remember this," and it's nostalgia, isn't it? Which is always a good thing. And then there's other people. I mean, Seacake always does a fantastic pop set. Marky does as well. He plays some great, because Marky's just got every record that's ever been released. I think it's like the BBC. It's like the BBC archive library. And have you got this? Yeah, of course I have. Some of the things you've got on 45, you're like, where did you get that from?
Yeah. It's like people say they've completed Netflix during the pandemic. I think
Mark's
Fat Wags
completed
just
records.
completed 7-inch records.
Him and Sam, I think him and Sam between them have probably got every 7-inch that's ever been released, and Sam's
It,
got some that haven't been released as well.
it's Sam's got stuff that's been carved himself. Sam's got stuff that's been sent to him as test press. It is quite satisfying when I play a record and Sam hasn't got it.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, what's this?" Blah blah blah, and you're like, "Yes."
Yeah, I played one the other week, and he
Got
said,
a
"Oh, I
record you
didn't
haven't
know that
got.
was out on 7." I thought, "Oh, cool." It was some kind of northern thing. I can't remember what it was. He goes, "Oh, I didn't know that was out." So, yes, get in. I've got a
Exactly.
record that Sam hasn't got.
Exactly. But I think the other fun thing about 45s is we can do like hold on. Something
Something gone wrong.
What's going on? Something's coming on here. Oh, there you go. Sorry. Some sort of advert on Twitch on another channel. I think the beauty of it is that we can do themed stuff as well. So from obviously Coffee and Donuts, it's led off to all these different raid events and things that I do and get involved in, like for example 45 Funksters, I've been playing funk, and 45 dubs and all the rest of it. But it's also been quite nice when we did the 90s Coffee and Donuts.
Yes.
And then we did the 80s Coffee and Donuts.
Yeah.
Which was quite fun. And then obviously leading off all of that is when we have the kids on as well.
I love watching the kids. I mean, so it's to see them. So, because the very first time, I think we talked about this before, haven't we?
Yeah.
Where that they sort of were meant to be doing, and they just got bored after about 5 minutes, and Sam ended up playing kids records. But since then, that they've come on and they've got more and more into it, and they love doing it now. ZZ loves doing it. Even DJO has started to actually pay more attention now, because they used to like just press a button, but now he's getting a bit older. He was only 4, bless him. So
it's what's nice, I think, is seeing them all grow and
develop their own style,
more confident. But it's also, for me, it's nice having more kids sort of join the sort of collective. So for example, the next one is on, I think it's Saturday the 30th of October, which is going to be another Halloween one. I need to email all these parents actually, make sure they can all do it. But hopefully one of the newer ones is going to be DJ O Live, which is Funky Flavor's daughter.
Okay, yes.
She did, I don't know if it was her very first set ever, but they organised there was a Norwich street festival or something
a
little while ago. Chrome went, and Tommy T went with TTT and Little Flower, so his 2 kids, and then Lee went along with Olive. So it's like they're not just doing it for us; they're getting sort of booked. And going and doing things. Me and Zizi went and did a VW festival last weekend. And basically she was the one who got booked. But they wanted a 2-hour set, and I was like, she can't play for 2 hours. She'll do half an hour, and then she'll get bored or whatever. So then I got booked the other bit. But sorry, let me just switch this off. I don't know what's going on. So yeah, I mean, that's amazing. Then I'm just waiting to sort out some venue. There's a possible venue that's coming up that I might be able to do something bigger with the 45 Kings, 45 Day, and the 45 Kids as well. But it's nice to see them doing it, and hopefully they will carry on. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're all very young, and there's a possibility that when they get to about 11, they know, I don't want to do this anymore. It's boring. But
yeah.
But then
it's like half of Sunday Get Down.
Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah. The younger one still does it and loves it, and the older one just
Otis has had enough. But it's one of those things. Like most of us, I imagine, have DJ'd or been DJs for most of our lives, or not necessarily. But it's something they can always come back to. So even if they do it for a few years now, and then get bored of it, at some point they'll go to a party, and at some point someone will have decks, and at some point they'll go, oh, you know what, I used to DJ, or I DJ, or my dad's got a load of records, or my mum's got a load of records, and then it might be something they come back to 5, 10, 15, 20 years later,
or they might carry on, because I started buying records when I was 8. And I'm 57 now, so I've been buying records for almost 50 years.
Almost 50 years.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? It's terrifying. But but it's just in me, and I've always done it, and it's always been, part of my life. Whenever I went to out with my mum and dad at shops, I always used to go to the record shop to look through the records, and they'd go around the big department store in Southend, and I said, I'm going down the record shop, and I'd sit there for hours just flicking through the albums and the singles, and I'd come out with me 50p or pound pocket money and maybe pick up a couple of things.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I've been doing that, and so some of the kids, like Arlo, he's really, really into it, and he's what, 12, 11. It's fabulous to see, and hopefully people like ZZ. It costs a lot of money though, Criztoz. It should be, or nicking your record when you're looking.
Yeah. All this driving to events and buying her records. But the thing is that actually a lot of the stuff that she likes or has in her collection is like 80s stuff, so a lot of it's cheap. But again, there's newer stuff. Like, for example, one of the records I bought her is one of the songs from Turning Red, which is a new Pixar Disney film. And that was like on orange vinyl, but again, that's a normal new record price. But it's something that she's going to keep, and it's something that she's picked out and she's chosen, so it's cool. But yeah, we will watch this space for the 45 kids. I need to sort of email or message all the parents and get some set times lined up. But yeah, I think we'll do like half an hour sets and see how many we can get involved, really.
And have you got anything sort of coming up you can tell us about, or in the pipeline for Coffee and Donuts? Because it's grown quite exponentially, really, over the last 2 years.
Well, just next week's another big one. We had Colin, Funky Diabetic, messaged me a little while ago and said, "Oh, he's in Swindon." We'd met when I went to DJ at Matt Baylor's place.
I think he played. Didn't he play with John Musto and Double P recently? Was that him?
They did, yeah, they did. So he basically opened up his kitchen and said to people, come round. So he organised, I think, 4 or 5. So next week they're doing it again, but I think it's a slightly longer session. I think they're starting. They're the entire guest is me and Fat Wax, and then from 11 a.m. till 7 p.m.
Wow,
8 hours. He's got. I'm going to forget people, but it's DJ Fade, Double P. Obviously Funky Diabetic. I think he's got that guy from Swindon, Sam Tweaks. Hopefully he's going down there. Mr. Musto. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone, but yeah, it's about 7 or 8 DJs. I've probably forgotten someone. There's about 7 or 8 DJs, and so that's quite a big one. And then we've got a return of Sue and Paul Miller. They're going to do a 2-hour session. We're hoping to get back Sucker Punch and Vinyl Ray, because they did a 1-hour set before, but they're going to do a 2-hour set. And then we'll see how we go. I've got guests pretty much booked up till about sort of mid to late November. And then we'll just see. And then hopefully, I think it's the 3rd of December. Matt Baylor, sorry, I forgot Matt Baylor. 3rd of December, Double P's doing effectively what Colin's doing at his place. So he's opening.
I saw something in the chat the other day about that.
Yeah, so he's opening up his garage.
He said anyone wants to come along. Yeah, and it's something that,
and he's trying to get people along. And he's suggesting to them they wear Christmas outfits. So I'm not sure if that's going to be taken up, but it might do.
I've never worn a Christmas outfit for anybody, and I'm never going to do it now.
Again. 1 second. But again, again, that's sort of come out a little bit from you. I think you may have been other than the sort of 24-hour stream where we obviously did that. I think you were probably the first one who did like a back-to-back session with Daryl Easley. I think that's right. I think you were the first one who did that. And then you did another one, and then it's really sort of off the back of that I got the idea of saying, well, let me just put a message in the chat in the group and just see if anyone else wants to do it. And I just said, do you live near a 45er? Do you want to meet up? Do you want to do a back-to-back session? And it's been really good, and it's that different vibe of, as I spoke to Double P about it, it's you're in a room with other DJs. It's all well and good DJing here on your own, but when you're in a room with other DJs, you sort of feed off each other.
You do.
And the vibe's
you get a flow. Definitely get a flow. So I've got one on the 15th with me, Mark Funk, and Daryl, which is going to be good fun, I think, because me and Mark have DJed together a few times now. Me and Daryl having it, and Daryl's got an incredible record collection and some very unexpected stuff on 45, because he's got connections within the music industry, and he just says all these amazing things that he picks up. And Mark me and Mark have got very similar tastes in that kind of boogie and R&B thing, and we but Daryl loves all that too. So yeah, it could be quite an interesting morning. That it'd be good fun.
But I mean, I think it's Fat Wax is saying that he's had the guys who went and played because he did a session there with Tea Cake and Lee Funky Flavors and also Beetroot Collective, John Cayley.
That's right. Yeah. That was a good.
But I mean, it's for me, it's amazing seeing this stuff. And for example, seeing that you had Mark Funk as a guest on your show, and seeing all these little connections and friendships that are growing off the back of 45. I mean, it's just
me and Mark have become
brilliant.
really good mates, and we see each other quite regularly. And he's
Yeah.
been on my radio show, and he will come on again because I mean, Mark's unbeknownst to me that he used to be a hospital radio DJ. You think, oh, okay,
Right.
but the Whips Cross, not just any hospital. That's one of the biggest hospitals in London. And Mark so you find all these little connections, as you say, and it hadn't been for Coffee and Donuts and you and Rob, I would never have ever met any of you, and become friends with any of these people. And likewise, there's lots of other connections there. Some people knew each other, so the Wax Nerds crew knew each other, and the people who DJ'd out knew of each other. But for someone like me, who was a bedroom DJ, never knew anybody really. And now I know lots of these amazing guys, and women who are fabulous DJs, and it enriches your life, doesn't it?
I mean, and I think that's definitely the way to go. And I think it was with Rob I was talking about on this. It's as you get older, it becomes harder to make friends, I think, or good friends. Let's put it that way. And obviously, yeah, if you're a parent, you might meet the some of your other kids' parents or whatever. But it's not. You're sort of friends because your kids are friends rather than being friends. But I think the beauty of this is we've all found a passion that allows us to share our passion with other people. And because of how Twitch is, and because we're able to talk to each other like this and see each other, that's why I think the friendships are so much deeper than they would be. If it was just a few messages and a few text messages here and there and all the rest of it, it probably still would have happened, but maybe not quite in the same way. But I think because we're vulnerable and we're putting ourselves out there and we're broadcasting with that, we know what the other person's like before you actually meet them in person, because you've seen them so much on the streams, and it's not a surprise when you get there and you're like, oh, well, you're like this, or you're completely different, or you're an idiot, or whatever. we know what everyone's like, and that's why we get on. It's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, and really. It's the overseas friendships as well that you would never really have I mean, I've got the Aussie people like Rob and Dee, and you get people like Chris, who lives in Düsseldorf. Sideshow lives in Düsseldorf. Right? I know he's Scottish, but he lives over in Germany. And Ollie in Hamburg, who's Spalansky news from this morning. Mr. Petit Mix, in France, who I chat to quite a bit, and he comes in the chat. And it's like, they're all of these lovely people who you would never have ever met.
You would just never know of them.
No.
You would just never know of these amazing DJs and amazing people if it wasn't for Twitch and what we're doing. And it's also great that, hopefully once we can travel a bit more, that you'll be able to go to these countries. And it's starting to happen. Rob was saying a story about how one of his mates from Australia was going to Bari, and he said, oh, well, you should hook up with Vito and Enzo. I think Vito wasn't there, but Enzo was there. So then the guy sent him a message back with a load of photos saying, here's me meeting up with Enzo. I had a brilliant night. Thanks for organising. They took me to a bar I didn't know, and they took me to, and it's brilliant.
Well, yeah, we know.
Go on.
We know people in most countries in Europe and in the Americas really now.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And I love what I love at the moment is sort of obviously we've got our little collective. We've got the 45 Kings collective. But then you sort of tap into some of these other collectives. So like, for example, this week I did Slow Mo Monday, which was Don Champ and Barty Cuts, and now it's Dr. Bresley Cray and Barty Cuts. But again, they've got their own little crew. So people like Jazz Nasty and Chris and Dad, people who were sort of friends with already. But it's nice just sort of going in and sort of being part of their raid event or their festival, effectively. I mean, that's what I'm starting to call them, because they are sort of mini. They're online festivals, and we're lucky enough to be able to do them around the world.
Well, this Respect Music thing that's just started up recently, again, that's another whole new set of people that we didn't necessarily know.
Exactly.
And they're they're lovely people. I mean, James that runs that is
Yep.
he messages. I mean, he messages everyone. He even sent little voice messages to people thanking them for doing the show.
Yeah, yeah,
What a
yeah.
nice bloke, really, really lovely. And it just makes you want to say, well, I want to do that again for them because it's good fun because you're playing records
Yeah.
to people and you're getting people enjoying that. I mean, I did my set um, on Wednesday, and I was playing stuff I don't normally play, but because it was
You were playing 12, weren't you?
albums, yeah,
Albums.
yeah, I was, yeah, but I don't usually get a chance to do that. But I was playing sort of all the
Exactly.
acid jazzy type stuff, and there's one guy in the room. He was from Greece who DJed before, DJ Chairman.
Yeah, yeah. I've
He'd
messaged
done a
him
really
since.
good
Yeah, yeah.
set, and he played all this sort of R&B stuff, and I started playing all this stuff, and he started, oh, that's a good track, that's a good track, that's a good track, and then I played a Mark Murphy record, and he just said, "I give up." I said, Mark Murphy's my favourite singer, and this is my favourite track by Mark Murphy. I think instant connection with this bloke I'd never ever heard of until
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
and it was
yeah.
great just through music and just through that event that they put on, some a random DJ in Greece,
And again, it's something that wouldn't be possible in the real world.
No,
Like, for example, what we did, that 24-hour stream we did, or any of these raid events, unless they were sort of UK and everyone happened to be in the general area, they just can't possibly happen in
no,
the real world because you're not going to have 4 Brazil DJs fly over.
no,
Maybe one day, but you're not going to have 4 Brazil DJs fly over like we did the 24/7 thing, and then you've got another 5 Japanese DJs and then a couple of DJs from America and then a couple from the UK, all in the same place at the same time. It just
but on
cannot
the internet
physically
you
happen.
can. Yeah.
Well, and we can, and I think my sort of bigger aim, you asked, where it's possibly all going. I think it's trying to get people who aren't necessarily DJs or record collectors to see what we're doing and join in, because I don't think there's anything, what we play is good music, regardless of genre or whatever.
Yeah.
It is good music. It just happens to be on 45. If we could somehow promote it as the new radio, on a Saturday morning, don't switch Six Music on, which a lot of people used to, and they're now switching on Coffee and Donuts.
Yeah.
But it's getting the average person,
Go to do that. Yeah.
wrong word, but the people who aren't,
People are
record nerds,
music fans. Music
not
fans.
record nerds like us.
No.
And I think that's what I'm trying to work on in the next sort of few months, just trying to work out how we can
really, really
potentially
a place
promote
to tune into it's become what I always tune in on Saturday morning, and lots of us do. But people are outside our little
bubble, really.
our little bubble, to actually.
I mean, there's new people coming in all the time, and we're sort of we're getting close to 3,500 followers. I think we're on 360 or something now at the moment. So it's getting bigger, and it will carry on. But yeah, and I while we're here, just say thank you to everyone who's been on Coffee and Donuts, everyone who's been a guest. And thank you to you. You've stood in and been a co-host when I've not been able to do it. And also thank you to you and Ouija for doing Morning Delights. That's our sort of Wednesday morning show.
We've enjoyed that. And it's starting to, it was slow to start because it always is. But the last few weeks, couple of weeks, you've had like 30, 40 people in, which is, pretty good. That's not, and it's maintained the numbers. And we got DJ D on this Wednesday.
Always brilliant.
That should be good. Yeah, and then I think we're off the week after, because Graham's away, and I'm probably going to be away as well, so we're not going to do it.
Well, we'll have a look at that. We'll have a chat about that date. But yeah, any more questions?
Not really. No.
Did I get through it? That was relatively painless.
We've talked about the whole raid thing, which is great now that people raid into each other. We've the friendships, DJing. No, I think I've covered just about everything really. It's been good fun. I've enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. Let me just set the raid. Let me make sure the raid's going.
Where are we going to go to? Are we going to go to this geezer?
We're going to go to DJ Mr. Picky. He's messaged to say he's live. He raided into Morning Delights on Wednesday.
Okay. Yes, he did. Yes, absolutely.
We'll return the favour. I'm not sure he's playing digital. I'm not sure he's playing vinyl, but I think the music he's going to play is pretty good. But jump on the raid. Thank you everyone for Coffee and Donuts again this morning. It's been another great show. Thank you, Mark, for the interview. Much appreciated. It's nice to be on the other side of the camera, or the other side of the microphone, maybe. But thanks so much, and thanks for being a guest. And we look forward to your next session
Thanks for agreeing to do it. It's
No problem at all. Take care. Right, let's raid out.